Hi, everyone. Welcome to another exciting edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. Delighted to be peering into what looks like a very creative, book-loving space with some interesting models and all sorts of interesting things going on. This is comics creator Ben Perkins that I'm talking with on this episode. Ben, thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you for having me, Jason. It's really nice to be aboard. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love the ship metaphor we're going here with. It's like I need to plan my captain talk.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
What,
was trying to decide
what I
what
say.
to wear.
Yes, love it. Um,
Yeah.
I'm going to be thinking on my captain speak since we have engage and things like that. But we'll just get started. We'll get started. How about that?
Sure.
So
Perfect.
I usually start by mentioning a couple of titles, and I'll mention Heavy. I also believe you're associated with a book. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Mysterious Adventures. Is that right?
Wow, I don't know. Maybe from a long time ago, but that
Yeah,
doesn't
I
seem
think
like a
it's been a
recent thing
while.
I've done.
Yeah. It
Really?
was on the
Wow.
Comic Vine, so
Oh,
it's out there.
yeah, I think I know exactly what you're talking about. That was a long time ago. Wow. It's
Yes,
just I feel
yes.
like I'm on an episode of Hot Ones. You keep pulling from
That's
the
right.
deep here.
We have guests. We're going to be pulling them out. It's going to be
Yeah,
like,
right,
hey,
right.
remember me? I was
Like
that
this is
guy.
your life.
That's right. That's right. And of course, we are talking on this episode about a book in particular called Deathslinger as well. And you've shared a copy of that with me, and I've had the chance to look through it. It looks amazing and fascinating and great.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that very much. Yeah, a lot of hard work went into it. I think it's probably about I want to say when I was wrapping up the project, I was getting notifications on my Facebook that like I'd started it a year prior.
Oh, wow.
So it took about a year. But fortunately, I got the thing done in less time than I thought. So I think we had till April to get everything done by the deadline, and I just finished everything probably I think December. So
Nice.
yeah, so it's been a wild ride. I learned a lot. Yeah, I was very excited for the opportunity. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm curious by means of an origins question to kind of
okay,
start out with comics. What drew you into this field? How did you know comics was the place you wanted to be in?
I grew up reading comics, of course, like a lot of kids did, but I was more fascinated with animation, and I remember wanting to do cartoons.
Hmm,
But
hmm.
then I realized that it takes a lot of work to do those and a lot of drawings. And I somehow just kind of, I can't remember what it was. That got me into like thinking that I could do comics instead. But I do remember when I was in high school and college, the idea I consumed a lot of Frank Miller, and that was like really
Hmm,
the impetus for me to be like, oh, one person can just do the whole thing.
hmm, hmm.
And so that's when I just decided to like adopt the kind of the professional term of like being a cartoonist is someone who kind of like writes and draws their own material, as opposed to just a comic book artist, which now everything's kind of like amorphous and everything blends, so like anything can mean anything. But I the cartoonist label really is something I latched onto like back when I moved to Portland and decided to really pursue comics and what kind of comics I wanted to do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and now you're working on Deathslinger, so I'm curious
Hmm.
about kind of the tagline, kind of the elevator story that you would share for folks that are like, that sounds cool. What's that about? And it
Yeah,
is cool.
well, it is. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's
Mhm.
basically it's I would say a sci-fi western starring a cyborg who was built for death and now doesn't have to be a death slinger, but that's the nature. They are a death slinger.
Yeah, yeah.
So like how programming versus nature, how do you kind of come to terms with that? What do you do? Because the whole impetus of the characters are everywhere she goes, she just leaves bodies in her wake because that's just the nature of her being.
Hmm.
And how do you escape that? How do you use that to your advantage, maybe, as a positive? How do you live with yourself by being this kind of thing? So yeah, and she's a tortured soul, so she's got like some well, not hubris, pathos to her.
Hmm, hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's just I don't know. I would feel like to me, I was trying to get like maybe like a Sergio Leone by way of Grindhouse, maybe a Rodriguez Tarantino
Hmm,
kind of
hmm.
thing like that, with the tropes of like the Star Wars, Mos Eisley kind of like vibe, where it's like a dusty bowl of a planet that they're on. You have bug people, and snake people and their gangs, and the whole thing's great. The writer Shane, he did a wonderful job on the script, and so that's what made me super eager to work on it. And I literally poured so much into it. Like, so hopefully, I keep telling people it's probably some of the best comic storytelling of my career
Mm,
because I just focused so much on like really making it a great reading experience for people and like showing them that I know the language of comics enough to kind of like provide a good ride. So that's my goal.
love it, love it. Yeah. Well, and that speaks to the versatility of science fiction as well as comics, because I love how you're kind of melding that together, melding science fiction together with Western themes, and then you have that pathos mixed in that allows for some really interesting character searching too. So lots of good
Right.
things baked in the dish.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, like I said, that's all Shane. My my only job as co-creator was just to kind of establish the look of the world, establish the look of the characters, and to me sometimes it's a detriment, but I think some people might like that the art definitely kind of changes over the course of the book and gets way more refined as it goes along.
Hmm.
But I kind of like that because a lot of the books I grew up with, like the Turtles, for instance, or like some other like cartoonists, even like Jim Davis, Garfield, and Peanuts and all that, like they would have a rougher begin. Yeah, like Simpsons did it too. Right? They'd have a rough start to it, and then it just kind of
Hmm.
gets more streamlined and refined once they know what they're doing and what they have, and to focus on what works and like leave behind what doesn't work, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so that's kind of what I feel like happens, and you get that in one volume. So I think that's kind of like a nice little kind of ride in that regard too. I think it keeps things visually interesting too. So
Yeah, yeah. Makes me think about the manga editions of Attack on Titan, which again, you don't get in one volume. You don't see that like artistic transition, but to get that in one volume is pretty cool to and to talk about how it changes.
right, and I tried to resist it too much, but as I was getting into the flavors of the characters and like their personalities and just the graphic nature of the comic page itself, things just kind of start like a iron sharpens iron. I was just keep
Mhm.
getting sharper and just more refined in like what I like. The intent was clearer for me, like when I started developing the pages and stuff. So I think that was part of the growth of it too. But like I said, hopefully it's not a huge jump. But I always thought it was kind of interesting, and so I'll just point to that kind of phenomenon that I appreciated when I was reading those old comics.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I am also curious about kind of the creative process as a co-creation. Any parts of the process, people that were part of the process that you'd like to give a nod to and just kind of
Um,
talk a little bit about.
well, of course, Shane, for writing such a great script. I think, like again, my thing for co-creatorship. Anytime I come onto a script, someone wants me to develop for them. One of the things that I strongly fight for is to be able to visually pace the storytelling. So you might have a certain number of panels on one page, but I might be like, okay, I think these two panels we could push this to the next page and have a nice, like a stronger moment, a stronger reveal. My whole
Mhm.
philosophy is and it's kind of a philosophy. So I've kind of totally ripped this off, but every page ends in a question that gets answered when you turn the page or flip,
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so in that regard, but like Keith, he's our designer and letterer. I have to give an amazing, tremendous shout out to him because he's pretty much the backbone of like what made everything work. He does the lettering is really, really great. The design of all the pages that he assembled. I mean, he did magic, pure magic. I can't say enough good things. And then Eli for taking it on and wanting to publish it. That shows a lot of trust in us and that we have a good product. And I can't say too much of spilling the beans, but we went out and tried to get some people to give us some quotes on things, and we get some really wonderful responses from some pretty people that I wasn't excited to share that like the book. So that's pretty cool. So I'm excited about all that. But it'll probably be the biggest project I've worked on so far, probably besides like the Ghost Agent stuff that I was doing, and
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
hopefully we'll still continue to do. Yeah, I like that stuff too. But yeah, so yeah, I'm super happy. That song is gonna hopefully knock some socks off. Like I said, I'm glad you liked it. That
Mhm.
hopefully it's unique. Hopefully it's unique enough, because I know there's a lot of post-apocalyptic kind of sci-fi stuff, but I think the Western angle, and I think just the fact that there are not a lot of human characters,
Yeah.
I think that's kind of appealing too. And again, that's another part of my co-creatorship is just like the designs of the creatures, and the worlds and all that. Shane just pretty much he would give me some like photo references and kind of, I want this vibe, kind of like a great director would do. Just kind of gives
Mhm.
you a couple notes and then just kind of sends you off. He knows exactly where to point you. And so I appreciated all that, and I took the ball and ran with it. So
Yeah, yeah. You were talking about kind of the genre, and I mean, one of the things that I always appreciate is when someone's telling a story kind of in that place that you enjoy, because there's something about dystopian and post-apocalyptic. It's far removed enough from reality that I can be entertained by it, and yet it's also, cautionary in a really interesting way.
yeah,
So,
okay,
yeah. So I would say if you like the genre, it's great. It's always great for me to find stories that are written that kind of speak in those worlds too, because I just
sure.
that's one of my go-to places that I like to read.
Right. It's kind of like that post-apocalyptic feel or whatever, that dystopianness is like a nihilist wet dream in a way. It's like kind of the
Yeah,
ultimate culmination of everything that they want. It's like
yeah,
here it
yeah.
is, right?
That's right. That's right.
Very kind of punk rock in a way. So yeah. So that's a level I appreciate it. But like again, offsetting it with like, bright color palette, explosive action, it's just not dreary, but it's a very dreary world, right? So
Yeah,
yeah, I like that. I like that juxtaposition a lot. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's great. I like that's nice. 6 chapters, 8 pages each. So it's brisk, it's fast, it move. I think it moves.
Hmm, hmm.
I've read the thing a few times, and I really, yeah, I like it. I like it. I'm proud of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I've had Eli on before. We're getting down to
Hmm.
just our last minute and a half here, but we'll log back in
Cool.
to tie anything up. Um, So I've had Eli on before. He seems nice. Is he
Oh,
yeah, as nice as he seems?
he,
I
he's
think he's
he, oh,
probably
he's amazing. He's totally amazing. The one thing I think that I like about Eli the most is he's putting himself out there. He's taking risks. He's taking chances. The rewards you can just see on his face. He loves what he does, and that energy is infectious. But I
hmm,
also think he's at a level now where he is part of the conversation of the history of comics. Like I
hmm,
think he's made enough of an impact in the indie scene, and especially this new revolution of this, like the internet indie scene. Where all these people can come together across oceans to build a comic and to build a community. I think he was one of the ones that was at the headline of that from the start,
hmm.
and now he's got Cosmic Lion Productions. He's got a new office, and he's got he's talking to the greats. He's collaborating with them. He's making his mark, and like everybody, I think it's a really cool moment in comics, especially for that kind of reason where it's like that underground is kind of like resurging in a way, and it's
Yeah,
viable and it's more noticeable because we can all communicate with each other pretty easily.
yeah, absolutely. So if I am a listener out there and I want to know where I can check out Deathslinger, any web spaces, social media spaces, things of that nature where people can go
Right.
and connect with you.
Well, I think the first place they can go would be to go to cosmiclionproductions.com. And I'm sure there's a store tab. You'll probably be able to find it there.
Hmm, hmm.
Otherwise, you can follow me on Facebook. You can follow Eli Schwab on Facebook, and then you'll get the notifications there too. I'm horrible with that kind of thing, but I know cosmiclionproductions.com is where you can go to actually get your foot in and then see all the great things that they have there, plus Deathslinger.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. And I'm always appreciating what is being done in the world of comics and appreciate what you said there about sort of the underground, the comics with an X, resurging as well, because that's very cool and very cool spaces for people to tell stories right now as well.
Anybody can if the budget is very, very low for
Yep.
making comics, and you can get anything. Anybody can do it, no matter your skill level or talent level, or it's the passion. If your
Hmm.
passion level's there, then just go ahead and do it.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Um, well, thank you, Ben, for the time. Thank you for the work and the comics and creating. Is there anything that we've missed that you want to make sure to share before we close out?
No, no, I'm just thankful for people to appreciate my work like yourself, and I just hope I have opportunities to do more, and that people keep coming back for it. So I appreciate it. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much for having me on.
Yeah, glad to have you anytime, and thanks again for the work and the time.
Yeah, much appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thanks.